Tuning you in now to the LBX show with your host, Brandon Wiley. Brought to you by the LBX Collective, your community to connect, engage, and inspire.
All right. Well, welcome everybody to the LBX show for March 22nd, 2026. This is episode number 69, and it's a special episode. We are doing an Amusement Expo international review that is AEI, and it was better this last week. And so we had a great time out there. Kevin did some speaking on the first day of the educational conferences that lasted Monday and Tuesday. And then we had the trade show and expo Wednesday and Thursday. There was some great stuff that was revealed, and so we're going to dig into that. We've got Kevin Williams and Adam Pratt here to join me, and we're going to have a great guest, Gab, just talking about all the great stuff that we saw at the expo, as well as some of the experiences in and around the Vegas area. And so we're going to dive right into it after a really quick word from our great sponsor, Intercard.
Brandon, hey everyone, welcome to the last day of Amusement Expo 2026. I want to introduce you to Todd DeMott, who's going to tell you a little bit about our Impulse Plus reader.
Hello,
take it away, Todd.
This is Intercard's new Impulse Plus reader. It accepts all forms of payment, credit, debit, Apple Pay, Google Pay. It also works with Intercard's game cards, tap cards, RFID, or wristbands. You can have 4 different prices on a touchscreen. It runs on Wi-Fi or cell, and it's typically geared more towards smaller game rooms that don't need the need for a full kiosk, but want a lot of features from a full card system.
All right, Adam, Kevin, great to have you guys on as usual. We're going to do our review and debrief of Amusement Expo. So we'll just kick things off here. What did you, let's just start high level. What did you feel about, how do you feel the energy was? What did you feel like how do you feel like the show was for you guys?
Please, Adam, go first.
Okay. I don't know why, but I started to lose my voice the very first day, like within an hour or two. And it was like, I don't even feel like I'm talking that much. But overall, I thought that even though the attendance was strange, like there was a lot of commentary about that. And of course, afterwards, we found out that it was down, most likely due to some storm system that moved through the Midwest. Because I know several people at some high-level managers at several manufacturers couldn't make it. One Eddie from Team Play even had his bags sent, but he was not included on the flight somehow due to that happening. But still, the energy seemed to be pretty well positive, a lot of optimism, and in part for me, where I generally don't attend as many trade shows as you guys do, but so it's generally speaking like IAAPA and Amusement Expo, and it's always nice to go to Amusement Expo and see more than one new thing that I didn't see at IAAPA. And I would say during the 2010s, it felt like that's usually what it was. In fact, there was 1 or 2 times where I skipped Amusement Expo just because it's like there really wasn't anything new back in those days. But last year and this year, there actually was quite a few. But what was maybe interesting was that it wasn't from the big names, at least on the arcade side of things, as far as like Sega, Rothrills, Namco. They all had pretty much the same thing as they had at IAAPA, but it was from other smaller studios, which we will talk about, that were bringing some new stuff to the table and setting things up for what could be a good summer, as long as those products sell.
Thank you, Adam. That's a very detailed observation. I'll put my corporate hat on, and I would like to thank Beth and the team at the AAMA as well as the AMOA for putting together what was an impressive show. New location held within the Las Vegas West, which brought a fresh air to the experience. It was a different.
I liked it better than the other parts of the
Totally agree.
Center.
Totally agree. And the one thing about it, so from my point of view, I was kindly invited to do a keynote on the first day to talk about competitive socializing. And it is clear that the associations and the organizers are going through a reevaluation of what AEI brings to the table. And I get the feeling from this change that they're experimenting. There was, along with the normal kind of keynotes and panel sessions, there was even some speed dating panel sessions that were taking place. And there was a lot of vibe and interest in sharing knowledge. So the education is coming forward, and I expect that's something we're going to see next March with this. The key takeaways from this show, with my hat on, transmedia is big. There was a lot of IP, not just from the big names on the show floor. There was a lot of new content, which I didn't expect to see there. And there were exhibitors that were there and exhibitors that weren't there that was very telling in what they were trying to say. And that may sound a little cryptic, but we'll go into a little bit more about that. But I would also argue that the location of Las Vegas was also incredibly telling on how much location-based entertainment and competitive socializing is expanding.
Yeah, I would absolutely agree with that. I mean, just in the last year since we were there in March of 2025, the number of experiences that have opened up, and granted, many of them were in the phase 2 of Area 15, where that was just under development and things were just getting ready to open when we were there last. But the number of experiences has grown significantly in the last year just in Las Vegas. So I think I was disappointed to see how, at some level, how underrepresented some of the competitive socializing aspects of our industry were at Amusement Expo. Obviously, there's a lot of new things on the arcade amusement side, very few new things, if any at all, really, with the exception of maybe DOF Robotics, which we'll get to here in a minute. Was there really anything else beyond amusement and arcade side of things, as far as new experiences? You had the projection map pool table. There was one of those, which obviously we've seen and we've talked about with regards to the former founders of Putcheck bringing in Pool House and bringing that type of experience. This is one that you could drop into your own facility, so we had that available. But yeah, overall, I think the energy felt really good, especially in that first day. And this was just early on when I first got there at around 11. You can see people down the aisles. Like it's not a big empty aisle. Like this is right at the beginning. So there's a big open empty space as you first walk in, but the aisles were filled. There was things moving. When I was talking to some of the other vendors, they felt like they were having good conversations with potential buyers, had good leads. And inevitably, like as we always see with Amusement Expo, the second day is pretty light. A lot more like individual buying conversations, people going back to specific booths. But I think the vibe was very good. And had again a lot of energy up front, and maybe we just get into some of the things that we saw. That
just one thing.
Yeah,
just one thing. It's a day and a half. I can't treat the second day seriously as a full day's worth of business. 11 till 4 compared to 11 till 6 is quite a difference for that. And the tripping over all the luggage on the second day. I still wonder if the organizers of the show are going to have to go back to a 2.5 day concept. Sorry, Brandon, I cut through.
Well, yeah, no, I mean, I think that's fair. The day and a half is interesting. Although as somebody who used to exhibit at the show, the 2.5 days were a slog. Because by the end of the second day, or you had the middle, basically the beginning of the second day and the end of the second day were dead. The middle of the second day was usually pretty busy because either people are like nursing their hangovers and then they're leaving to go to different events that second day, and then the third day was totally empty. There was like a few people, you'd have a handful of conversations, and you just want to get the hell out of there and start. So I think from a vendor standpoint, I certainly appreciate the day. I would appreciate the day and a half. I haven't exhibited there in a few years now, but it also, though, does get the feeling that as an attendee, if I really want to see everything, and if I really actually want to try the new things that I want to try, have the conversations and meetings I want to have, a day and a half is a little tight, actually. And so I would prefer to have a little bit longer, even if the second day was the full length and extended till 6 instead of 4, or something like that would be beneficial as an attendee who's actually looking to try all of these things.
And that's the difference here. It's do you have the hat on as an organizer and an association, or do you have a hat on as an attendee? I would argue, as you would expect, that having this show linked with the bar and restaurant show, linked with Pizza Expo, would allow that 2.5 days split to be able to achieve that. Being a standalone event that you have to fly all the way to Vegas for, from an attendee's point of view, it's very difficult to cover that show or any show in 1.5 days when you have anything over 200 exhibitors.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And it was always great when we had the bar, restaurant, and pizza expos, not co-located, but like how would you call it? Like at the same time, basically running over the same week. And then we also had like the badge exchange. It was like, for like $20 extra or whatever, you could buy access. Like if you had one, you could buy access. Like that allowed a lot of cross-pollination. And we need that cross-pollination between our industries. The bar, restaurants, especially, even Pizza Expo, there's no reason why these three shows shouldn't exist at the same time, at the same week, and basically share badges and be able to cross-pollinate.
I don't know what the dates are for next year's nightclub and bar show, but we now have the 17th to the 19th, I think, if I remember correctly, dates for next year's AEI. So we will have to wait and see. But again, from the attendees' perspective, this would have been a difficult show to attend, especially with the storms. I'm not just going to blame the storms. I'm also going to blame the TSA strike that's going on at the moment,
for sure.
which I noticed was absent from the media coverage. That was a pain in the bum as one that had to go through all of that.
Yeah.
Although for me, I both in Vegas and Salt Lake City, I was through security almost faster than I usually am. So I guess it seems to be there's certain areas where it seems to be worse than others. Like I've heard Houston is absolutely horrible, like 5 to 6 hour wait times, and I'm sure New York and LA are along the same lines. But fortunately for me, it wasn't bad.
Yeah, same. Yeah, Phoenix, Las Vegas, and Las Vegas, Phoenix were pretty smooth. All right, so let's jump to what was your favorite piece or your favorite? It doesn't have to be even new thing, like your favorite thing that you saw, might have seen at IAAPA in like demo mode, and then or beta mode, and you saw it here, or it could be a brand new piece that you hadn't seen until now. But what stood out to you as something that was like, okay, yeah, this was a winner for for the show?
Congratulations, Stern, on Pokemon.
Yes, absolutely.
It lived up to what the rumors were. It played well, or it was very on easy mode for me. I had a very enjoyable game on the Pokemon machine. It had a lot of interest, and fundamentally, it's clearly an indication of where Stern is going. They had 3 flavors of fruitiness there. They had the Pokemon Standard, the Pokemon Special, and the Pokemon Pro, or Deluxe and Pro. Grande and the
Pro and Premium.
Yeah, Pro and Premium. Thank you, Adam. The issues for me are, I don't think enough of our industry spotted how much of an important piece of tech that this represents. I would also argue that it wasn't the only example of my favorite word here, transmedia technology, that was on the show floor. I have never seen at an ATEI so many, AEI, I'm getting it mixed up with the old amusement show. I've never seen so many licensed IP property being promoted and sold on the show floor. This was an IP show, and you can't hide from it.
Yeah, I would totally agree. Adam, what was one of the things you saw that stood out to you?
I mean, Pokemon definitely, when it comes to the whole licensing conversation, it's perhaps the most brilliant brand to be bringing into this industry, because as somebody who does pay some attention to pop culture trends and such, a lot of IP that's kind of beloved by, say, like Gen Xers, millennials, and such. There's been a lot of damage done to the brands like Star Wars or Star Trek or Doctor Who and several others, where they just are, if you look at the numbers, you see declines over time, and there's divisions in fan bases and such like that. Pokemon is one of those few things that it not only appeals to people of the Gen X through and millennial generations, it also appeals to kids right now. Like there's no kid I've ever heard of that's like, oh, I don't care about old 90s Pokemon. It's like they still enjoy it just the same. And it's done nothing to tarnish the brand name. And because of that, like there's constantly this argument in pinball circles, like, how do we get more people into pinball? And it's like, they just figure it has to be all down to the license. And while there is some truth to that, that's totally not the complete picture of it, because yes, the brand in this case will bring it in, but then as to what you were saying, Kevin, it's also a simpler game, which then some of the older pinball fans were complaining about or whining about, where it's like, it's too easy. I want something really complex and deep. And it's like, well, what do you want? Do you want to bring people in? You're not going to do that with something that punches them in the face the moment they hit the start button, because it's so complicated. And like, as an operator who has pinball machines next to him every single day, and once in a while I'll get people that come up and say, what is this? What I've had people ask, what's the point of this? What's the goal and everything? And it's not easy. It's not something you can put on a bumper sticker as to how to explain what pinball is. And so it's like it needs to be simplified. And again, so the Pokemon brand can pull them in, and the simplicity of the game can keep them there. And so I think it's one of the best ideas. Like, I heard about it years ago. Funny enough, this is one of those things that's been known out there without being officially announced. And even then I saw the huge potential. And I've already heard from at least one operator that he had one day after he set it up, it made $70 in a day, which for a pinball machine, that's extremely good. That's like 1980 numbers. Not anything recent. Like, I'm lucky to get $70 in a month on my best earning pinball machines. But on top of that, there's things like, as we mentioned, there's other IP that was out there. John Wick is one where it was announced by Blue Motion Games. And this was significant for them, given that they're a smaller company, and just I think they debuted it was at IAPA 2023, but they showed off their own, IAPA 2024, and then they showed off their first projects last year at Amusement Expo, the Giant Desert Strike in Canada.
So this particular machine that we are looking at is in a 90% complete state. They only had one particular level, which was also in a very early stage of completion. So the content has been created internally by the team at Blue Motion. The cabinet has been developed in partnership with a Chinese manufacturer, two-seater motion system. It's using light guns, well, sorry, not light guns, but actuated guns, metal guns, pretty heavy toys to play with. And it offers a branching play narrative. So when the final version has four of its levels, you will be able not just to go through the levels to the end boss, but you'll be able to have branching extras. The issues here for me with this product is it is not from one of the usual names, as Brandon said at the beginning of this presentation. This is Blue Motion, who's relatively new. They're actually a development team that is a breakaway from some members that work with Triotech. The really interesting thing for me from this was the Dave & Buster's perspective. There's a number of connections of Dave & Buster's that touched the show floor, only for the poor guys at Dave & Buster's not able to fly in for the show. But the situation here is that a deal has been done between Blue Motion and Dave & Buster's, where this product will be launched across about 140 of their venues in May, and these products are going to be 100% complete. So the versions we're seeing are a little bit behind what is actually going to be fielded. And this could be a very important product, not just because of the IP. Wick is strong at the moment, not because of the gameplay. Everybody likes motion-based shooting, but it's the package. And the package and the performance of this system will be very telling in our sector.
Yeah, I think one of the issues, and this is always an issue, but it seems to have been more of an issue for Blue Motion Games than maybe some other manufacturers and developers. But when you have the halogen lighting above, it does create an effect that makes it difficult for the gun and the target to track properly on the screen. And so, you know,
We have a fix for that. We have a fix for that.
Yeah. And so, you know, obviously seeing something on a trade show floor is never entirely fair to the product. And so, you know, I give it a little bit of grace there. The metal gun, I liked the feel of it. It had good action. But I will say the length of the game, because of the length of the gameplay, the metal gun was heavy. And if me as an adult who actually goes to the range and shoots real guns at a range was feeling the weight of this thing really dragging me down after the same gameplay, I think that you put that into the hands of an 8-year-old or a 12-year-old, and they're going to get tired. So I think there's some issues there, and either shorten the gameplay experience or you know, change up the gun potentially, or the weight of the gun anyway.
The nice thing about when you go down the range, the gun gets lighter the more you shoot.
Okay, fair.
Especially by 45. Yeah. But yes, it's a spot on. It's a juggling act, especially one of those 9-year-olds looking at John Wick's movies. Who am I kidding? So the issues with this is that this is a very major IP product that is dropping itself, and it's going to get a lot of face time from its partnership with Dave & Buster's. What happens after May? Buying habits for the August period is going to be very telling.
Yeah, absolutely.
If we could jump
all right. Well, I know.
Sorry.
Oh yeah, actually, I mean, I think this may be the one you were going to talk about here, but the one that really stood out for me was the Speedstorm, the Disney Speedstorm. You know, we're talking about transmedia, we're talking about IP. I thought this one was obviously really well executed. Adam, I know in one of your most recent Arcade Heroes posts, you just talked pretty extensively about the development of this game and how it came to the arcade. And so if you want to touch on just a little bit of that, that's great. Otherwise, we can refer people to arcadeheroes.com to read up a little bit more on that. But I thought the execution was really good. The motion was fun. The vertical screen was really interesting. And so, you know, obviously different mode than some other racers. And so, but I really did enjoy this, and I thought the use of IP was exceptional.
Yeah, agreed. And this was the other thing that really came to mind for me as well was, so I didn't really connect it until I heard somebody bring this up at the show, but that is Mario Kart Arcade GP DX by Bandai Namco. It's a game that's been in production since 2013, one of the longest in production arcade games in history. And I was told by Betts and Rep that if you ordered one right now, you won't get it until February 2027.
Wow.
And now it's been like that for a while. I've known some operators who opened up a few years ago, and they had to wait months and months and months. Now, why Bandai Namco does not increase put more people on their production floor to get that game out and to meet demand, I really don't know. But I'm also a little bit surprised that the industry has been this slow to really react to it, because it's like, this isn't a game that just showed up. It's been, well over a decade now. But now this and one other game, Nickelodeon Kart Racers Arcade by Andamiro, are both showing, and Monster Kart by Eunice, sorry.
And don't forget DOF's Angry Birds. There have been a number of games that have tried to fill the vacuum created by the Bandai Namco situation, which I'll go into a little bit. Right. Please, Adam.
Although I forgot to ask them what's been the deal with the Angry Birds game, because I haven't seen much about it other than a poster. But anyways, with this one, I think it's got a very, very strong IP attached to it. Because kind of like Pokemon, now granted, there has been some brand damage with Disney, and that could take up an entire podcast to discuss. But at the same time, there's plenty of people that overlook that, and there's plenty of not only children, but Disney adults who would play this just as well. And that's what I've seen with kidtainment products before, is because I had what was called Hot Racers, a non-IP thing, but it was designed for kids. But I was shocked by how many adults and teenagers I saw play that. It made a lot of money until it broke down. But something like this with a license, a much better presentation and everything, I think it stands to perform exceptionally well. And it is interesting with these screens now. I think that's an 85-inch screen. Well, it's not the first time that we're seeing this being used, such as Storm Racer 2 by Wallop was one of the first to do that. And that was also at the show at the Amusement Source International booth. I like this a lot better than I like the double screen setup that Raw Thrills introduced a few years ago. Because the problem I always had with that is the seam between the monitors always forces me to look down. It's like there's no point in me looking up because I know there's no gameplay happening there anyways. But when it comes to these screens, it dabbles into that area of almost it's more immersive, you could say, not quite a VR headset, but since your view is there's no boundaries there necessarily on the gameplay, then it just has that different effect.
This is a very technical and political situation. Most of the gen that we're aiming at are used to their portrait style of viewing.
Everybody's got a phone.
Everyone's doing their phone. Everyone's recording. But sadly, for some reason, the old boomers feel that the multi-layer screen offers a much more larger screen feel. And I think that they're missing out on a trick there. But sorry, Adam, I interrupted.
Oh, no, you're right. I mean, I would hope that they come out with a slightly smaller model just because it's hard to tell from the photos, but it's a very imposing game and it gets into a slight problem that exists with a lot of locations out there. Sure, it doesn't exist with like Round One USA or Dave and Buster's and some FECs, but there are locations that would be happy to get something like this, but they can't fit it because their ceilings aren't that tall or getting into the building doesn't have the right size access, and nobody's going to break a hole in the wall to get one game in through the into the facility, and so that's one little problem there. But overall, again, like was said, the gameplay was really solid. The sound on it was really good, as I recall. Like the Adrenaline is very good at getting those sound effects channeled through the seat properly that some games seem to miss for some reason. And then this is the other aspect that's actually interesting about it, is that it uses cards. Now, I've been seeing some comments about this online, and it seems to be a mixed bag. And so as far as players are concerned, they kind of feel like, why is the game locking characters behind a card system, whereas every other racer out there, you already get to choose between however many characters or whatever. Nickelodeon Kart Racers Arcade, it has something like, I think, 24 characters to choose from, maybe a little less, but still they're all there. You don't need anything to get it. But at the same time, from an operator perspective, it looks like this, could be an interesting way to use the card system that we've seen Raw Thrills do and a couple of others before. And it not only unlocks characters, but it also unlocks costumes. And that actually might be a little better in the long run as far as the costume side goes. But it also, I was waiting for an answer on this. I couldn't, maybe one of you heard about this, but as far as I know, this is not required by the game. So like if it runs out of cars, it doesn't prevent the game from being played. Just because they're at the show, you could still play it. And I didn't see any error message popping up on the screen saying, please reload the card dispenser or anything along those lines. It just reduces what you can choose from as far as the characters go. And so if they have the prices good on the cards, then I'd also assume they've been testing this, and that could be a very interesting entry into and a very good challenger to Mario Kart.
I remember the same people complaining about Mario Kart's locking in of certain characters. So, it's one rule for one game, one rule for the other. A little backtrack on the history. Why the hell we have not had a successor to the proven popularity of the Mario Kart games? is linked into two levels of politics. First level of politics is that Bandai Namco Japan is the developers behind that platform, and they felt very strongly that they didn't need to develop content for the Western market. They created their game, they created the multiple versions of their games, they perfected the card systems, and they were very happy. And no matter how much our friends at Bandai Namco America and Europe have begged on bended knee for an update to that, the warranting of having to do the licensing deal with Nintendo, having to do the licensing deal on the hardware for Mario Kart never really made it applicable. Now, jumping forwards, we have seen a number of companies trying to jump in to fill the vacuum. As Adam has stated, our friends at Andamiro have developed their karting game. Our friends at Unis have developed their karting game aimed at children, and our friends at the Andamiro game builds upon its knowledge of its audience, and so it is using SpongeBob. There were two SpongeBob products on the show floor, well, more than two, but brand new. This interpretation seemed okay. I didn't play it that extensively. I did play Disney extensively for a very important reason, which we'll come back to. And one of the omissions on the show floor was the big publicity that our friends at DOF Robotics made when they had developed their karting game based upon a popular IP,
Angry Birds.
with Angry Birds. And that has disappeared because developing content for a younger audience that also appeals to a mid-range audience is very difficult. I wanted to play the Disney product very intensively, as Adam has touched upon in his excellent coverage of this. It is a consumer game that has been pushed into the entertainment sector of location-based. Game loft. Oh, yes. Good point. All of these really, it's easier from an amusement developer's point of view not to have to develop the game from scratch themselves, but take a product that has already proven itself on console and has also been approved on an IP level. You don't have to keep on going through negotiations with Nickelodeon or Disney to have your characters and the graphical representation approved. You're just taking assets, an asset flip, as some people like to call it. The thing with Disney, for me, was the marriage of the card system, because there's certain characters that you want to race as. You want to race as Wreck-It Ralph. Mickey, Minnie, and Donald are used as the tertiary characters, but when the card starts spitting out other characters, it is a 4-player network game, and it is packaged in such a way that this could be the clear successor to Mario Kart in its current format. It played well for an adult, if you will lower the standard of adults to include me, but I also feel that it will play relatively well for a player. One of the things about the Angry Birds product, which I think may have caused it to end in immunity, is that it was difficult to steer the cart if you were an adult, because it needed finite movement, and a child is going to slam it one way and the other, and the cart moves in a certain way, where on the Disney product there is enough tension in the steering capability to make it skillful for both ages. Anyway, simplistic play, pedal, brake and speed, that's it. No gears, no view changes, but we are in an interesting position with Adrenaline. We've seen Adrenaline succeed with a racing game from the consumer sector previously with Need for Speed. I think that they're perfectly positioned, if this game is seen to generate ROI, to have another Mario Kart on their hand. And the point I was going to make was, if that happens, that may wake up our friends at Bandai Namco to actually pull their finger out.
Right.
Yeah. I want to, before we hop over to what Triotech had revealed, the one last thing I'll just say here about racers. While this wasn't a sit-down kart racer, this Monster Jet Rider is a case where you didn't have to necessarily use IP, and yet it still was a fairly enjoyable game. It was a motion platform, motion base, and the sort of like jet ski controls actually didn't oversteer. It was pretty easy to control. You had some firing, very Mario Kart-esque game play, and their own IP that they developed, right? So nothing tied, it was just monsters, right? There was nothing tied specifically to an expensive IP. And so I think there's opportunities as well to still produce, games while IP can be a driver. I think, obviously to gameplay and to especially crossover between, generations, you can also have just fun gameplay that can work as well on its own.
I thought the racing position was uncomfortable for younger kids, but was suitable for your average teenager onwards. As you say, non-IP. I made a big mistake as I rushed around the show on the first couple of hours. I assumed that was Sharknado IP, and then I had to stop and watch the game being played to work out that it was a unique IP. So whoever created the artwork for that did a great job. But again, we have a lot of ride-on racers in the market at the moment. We have a lot of kiddie racers in the market at the moment, trying to appeal to a market.
And I guess one thing that I should bring up that I wanted to bring up earlier too was the Cyberpunk 2077 license, which, while I'm not sure how much was talked about at the show, like online, this is getting a lot of attention because it has a huge fan base, and not just in the United States, but also in Europe and in Asia. Steve at Eunice was telling me that there were some influencers who picked up on the news, and it was getting millions of hits in China alone. And I wasn't even aware that Cyberpunk had such a fan base in China, but that one, I was very surprised by the package that it had there, as well as the gameplay and everything. It's interesting seeing Eunice over the many years and how their games had been and how they are now. They've definitely stepped up their game as to the quality of the racers, and that they are being able to develop something that is truly reaching parity with like what you would expect out of Rothrills or Bandai Namco or Sega. And just even the details on the cabinet that they were putting there were a little bit different as well. And or I guess another thing I wanted to say real quick was like this was indicative through their Neon Rush game, which I played at IAPA, and I was shocked because it was like, wow, this is a lot better than what I expected. Like I played Ultramoto VR, and that was just kind of forgettable to me. But Neon Rush was like, wow, this actually is very close to a Superbikes game, but it doesn't feel like it's necessarily ripping it off. There's only so many ways to make a motorcycle racer, but this Cyberpunk one, it reminds me a lot of there was an old game called Road Rash.
Yes, of course. Yes.
But then probably for our industry, there's Motor Raid. And in fact, I brought that up to a guy at ELOT, and he was like, oh yeah, I sold Motor Raids and everything back in the day. And so I was surprised to hear somebody knowing that somewhat obscure reference, but that one does stand to also perform very, very well. It's obviously going for a different target market. This would be something more of a hardcore gamer, millennial, probably maybe Gen Z sort of target demographic. But again, I was surprised and impressed by what they offered with that one.
I'm surprised that Stephen was surprised by the online interest in this product. We've seen a lot of interest from our coverage of this. The key issues that I have, for those of you that haven't seen the product, this is one of the largest motorbike ride-on amusement systems ever. They have created a futuristic recreation of one of the bikes out of the successful PC and console Cyberpunk game IP. So we've seen Cyberpunk by LAI Games turned into a shooting experience. Now we have a bike racing experience. We are in an early stage here with this product. It still needs to have its prototype design accepted by CD Red. I am interested how far Friends at Eunice has gone with this concept before getting the final sign-off. I played the game extensively at the show, and it is in an early stage of development. That button to swing the katana was very very delicate. Sorry,
there's a little bit of lag on it.
Yeah, oh yes, a lot of lag. And this graphics that the game is offering is not to arcade standard. This is a higher level of graphical representation that we have seen on many games. This isn't your raw thrills. This isn't the cartoony, high-end level graphical representation. This is a near representation of the graphics that you see when you play Cyberpunk. My issues with it is the size of that cabinet. This is a big box-dominated unit for a play level that I would argue is not much higher than the traditional racing game. There is also some other issues with it, which is it's not going to be a cheap product, and it's not going to be a product that's going to be readily available in the near term. We may not have this product available for purchase until next year. So this is...
According to Steve at Eunice, a couple of things he told me that it's been in development for almost 24 months, that they actually had the license before LAI announced their Turf Wars edition, that they have been working directly with CD Projekt on it. I also saw pricing on this before the show. It's under 30,000, which actually puts it in a much better spot than some of the other racers. Like, that's better than Speed Rider 40X by Bandai Namco. It's better than Asphalt Moto Blitz by LAI Games.
Top Gun.
So and so that actually does put it into a pretty good position because it is a twin model cabinet. Now, of course, like you said, there is that issue there where it is rather large compared to a Superbikes 3. I think it's larger than the Speed Rider 40X is. I'm pretty sure it is just because of the screen size on this, which I think are 65-inch screens, whereas the Speed Rider is like 49, if I recall correctly. But there was one little thing that they did on it that you can sort of see on the sides of the cabinet there. It's still a little hard to tell in the render, but I was noticing this when I was editing video about it. Like, you see those boxes and those pipes? Yeah. Those are actually on the game. And it's just, that was something CD Projekt wanted on there just because that fits with the universe. It's totally pointless from a practical point of view. Yep. And there's some other things too, like fake buttons on the part where there's the wind blower, which actually the wind blower effects were very good on this one. Sometimes you don't feel them at all on certain games, but on this one I actually did. But at the very least, it's like, that's a little interesting thing, I guess, for, having things that are in universe to it, little lighting things and subtle details, but maybe your normal consumer won't even notice those. But I guess as an operator and gamer geek,
I doubt a consumer is going to notice the box on the side, and this is yet again a arcade product being developed in by a consumer games company that has no bloody idea of what they're doing. The Eunice situation with CD Red compared to the LAI game situation with Ubisoft.
Yeah. And, the issue I always have with these kinds of things that are appended to the outside of the cabinet is that it makes it difficult when you're putting it into your game floor, depending on your space. You cannot nest your games up against each other without having, to remove those things. And then it just becomes like useless stuff that you paid extra for the cabinet and for the IP. So, I think sometimes just keeping things flat and simple on the sides is the better path to go, even if it is part of the IP.
The most problematic component of this bloody product is the seat is uncomfortable. It is uncomfortable to ride on it because it is an artistic representation of a video game component or model turned into reality. And they're going to have to do a little bit of ergonomic modeling, or else no one's going to want to stick on there much longer. And I had to, because I was playing the game and my bum does not talk to me at the moment.
And Steve, that was another thing. Steven did say that they were going to be doing some redesigning. I don't know how much of that's going to go into ergonomics or comfort, but he did say that there would be some changes made there. They also told me multiple times June this year is when they intend on shipping this. So we'll see how that all goes. But I would say that seat was still more comfortable than the Shockwave seats on the new Trio Tech product, because that was surprising to me that they didn't have padding on those on that one. It was just a hard surface. So when you're getting thrown around, the back of my head was not like super sore. It wasn't bruised or anything, but it actually was, it was noticeable. It was like, that was a little bit hard there. And
I'll argue that the DOF Robotics seat system has never, nothing wrong with DOF. It's just the application for location-based entertainment has always been a bit rough. Just to bring everyone up to speed, our friends at Triotech have celebrated the multiple award-winning longevity of the Typhoon ride amusement system by creating a modern interpretation with Typhoon Shockwave. The big differences are that they have improved the DOF motion-based system. I don't actually think they're DOF. I actually think that they're using their own proprietary motion system here for this in a compact package. They're also going for the double screen approach with that awful scene, which I think is a bad move on their part, but they feel that it is the
when I first saw the render, I was hoping that it was going to use like a micro LED curved screen, kind of like the Ubisoft All-Star VR. But then I was looking at it closely and it's like, that looks like those might be flat screens. And then when I got to the show, I was like, okay, they were flat screens. But then the even more odd thing about this that did kind of bother me is that the top screen is actually offset. It's forward like an inch or so from the bottom screen. So they're not flush with each other. And then it made, if you were bothering to look up at the top, you noticed that it seemed to be slightly off. And so it's like, I don't know if that's just, for get it ready for the show, because it's like on the Disney Speedstorm, actually all these games we've discussed so far, every single manufacturer told me there will be changes. We just had to get it ready for the show. And so it's like, I'm hoping that's what the instance is here, because I did not like both the seam and then just the offset is like, I just kept my focus on the bottom screen, because it's like, if I look at that top one, it's going to drive me crazy.
I made a mistake. I keep on saying DOF. I mean D-Box motion system. The issues with that product are, as you've touched upon with a lot of these new products that were shown at the show for the first time, was that they rushed up to you as soon as they saw you from the media or the influencer side or whatever, and said, "Oh, this isn't it yet, Kevin. No, wait. We're going to change it. We're going to add." So it's clear that they're now using AEI, like how they used to use the Fun Expo back in the day, the American show that took place at the beginning of the year in February and March, as a kind of a taster. They'll work it through the mill, they'll do some ROI numbers, they'll make some major changes, and then we'll get to see the real thing in November, which means that I am very skeptical when you say that we will see this product in June for Cyberpunk, when I get the feeling that they're not going to really have the final version until August, or even maybe show the final version for IALPA. But one of the interesting things with our friends at Triotech that was many people may have missed was that they were also promoting that they've just had a major film IP license for content for their XD Dark Ride theater systems. These are the systems where you sit in an auditorium and shoot at the screen with guns. They've just announced that they've done a Jumanji license, which will be coming out in the summer.
Yeah. Well, so I want to, before we get to the actual DOF Robotics ride, I want to do a quick shift, because one of my favorite pieces, actually, and this is, just to be fair, just be very clear about this and transparent, Alan One is a sponsor of the LBX Collective and of the LBX show. However, what's that?
As well as Arcade Heroes.
As well as Arcade Heroes, yes. But I was actually a big
Stinger.
fan. Yeah, and the Stinger, across the board. So I was really a big fan of the specifically the Atari Breakout. I mean, I think their Yars and their Caverns of Mars were also excellent. But I really enjoyed the Breakout Recharged. And so that was definitely, one of my favorites. It used the Pepper's Ghost effect, obviously, which, Adam has talked about. We talked about a little bit on the LBX show last week. And we do have just a quick thing here from James at Alan One. It's going to just talk about Breakout, and then we'll come back. So I want to get everybody else's opinion of these new releases by Alan One.
Thanks for finding me here. What a show, huh?
Yeah.
How many shows have you been to, Brandon?
I've been to, this is my 10th show.
10th show. This is our 4th show. And 4 years ago, we had a little teeny tiny booth with a little avian nights. We had no idea how hard this would be, but I'm so glad we did it. We now have 29 guys working. We manufacture out of Tooele, Utah. We have partnerships with Eunice. We have partnerships with Roth Grills. We're trying to secure all that, not yet, but that close. We're doing all we can to really help operators and FECs bring in more traffic and get more money and more revenue out of the guys that are already there. We think the strategy is, we know it's working. There's an FEC in Utah now who has asked that we put all of our games after a beta test in all their locations. Because Dad, when he's there playing a game, it may not be your biggest earner, but when the kids come and ask for more money, he gives them more money. Rather than, no guys, it's time to go, and that's the magic. So we have 3 new games now that are part of our Atari Recharged series. You cannot get these games on console, even though different versions exist there. These are all been modified by us. Atari and our partnership is very strong. They allow us to change the code and make it great and make it for an arcade. But one of the things we did differently this time around, we took inspiration from Space Invaders and Asteroids Deluxe and thought, why don't we bring back the Ghost Pepper effect, where you have a screen on the bottom that's hidden, a mirror here that's semi-transparent, and instead of cardboard in the back like what they did in the 80s, let's put another LCD screen and create some depth to give the game an experience you can never get at home. Let me show you Breakout. You can't see it on the camera because it's not 3D, but when you look at the screen, the background is actually back by about 3 inches, and it gives an effect that you've just never seen before. It's 3D without glasses. This is Breakout Recharged, updated, modern version that feels like the next evolution of what should have been done back in the day. We've included some Easter eggs in here. Wozniak built this game in 4 days for Atari back in the day. So we actually included some ASCII code that spells out a secret message. We included all sorts of inspiration from pinball, like ball saves and multi-ball with magic and bonuses. We even allowed you to capture the ball and put some spin on the ball with some English to get breakouts and get bonuses. The bonuses you get when you get a breakout is 1976, the year Breakout came out. I mean, come on, it's all here. It's all a lot of fun. Breakout Recharged. We already sold this one off the floor. Prototype number 1.
Congratulations to the guys. I love the passion. Thanks for capturing that, Adam.
That was actually
Brandon. I'm sorry, Brandon.
Captured that. But I should say, as a disclaimer, I've been able to work directly with Alan One on play testing and providing game design feedback and suggestions on those. Out of all those 3, Caverns of Mars probably has the most of what I've suggested so that they do. But actually, very early on, before I started doing any sort of consultancy with Alan One, I help plant the seed for, it would be really cool to have the Pepper's Ghost effect back in arcades, because that is something that just is very difficult, if not impossible, to do at home unless you're, I'm sure somebody with a 3D printer can do something, but most people aren't going to do that. But yeah, like Breakout Recharged, I'm kind of surprised they didn't do that sooner. That would have made more sense to me than, say, like Gravatar, but because it's just so iconic. And I was actually, out of all the Atari Recharged console versions, it was the best seller out of those 2. But yeah, with all the extra additions to the gameplay, gameplay, and the effect is very cool as well. I also think that, at least in my opinion, maybe you feel differently about this for the both of you, but it seemed like the depth was best on Caverns of Mars, and that was probably because it has a lot of scrolling.
Yes,
I was going to
totally
say
agree.
that straight away. I feel that effect works best there. I want them to do a scramble version of that using that system. The 3D works. Breakout. The other thing that James didn't touch upon, and a big thanks for James for spending some time to talk to us, was that they were running a tournament on those machines. So tournament play is an important part. I get the feeling that a lot of operators are neglecting to actually understand what Alan One is actually trying to achieve with their cabinet.
Yeah, absolutely. We're just gonna let this play here while we talk about the tournament, but this is their Major League Esports, and you can see some of these guys. These were some of the players that came out for the tournament. So the way that the tournament works is they basically have it running throughout the year, and then I believe top 10 players are then invited. How many?
Top 8.
Top 8. Okay, top 8 players are then brought in to compete ultimately for first place, second place, and third place, and they just get to play for the 3 days or the 2 days while the show is going, and and ultimately it's an all expense paid trip for Alan. The Alan One puts on to bring these guys out, and so it's a pretty cool thing. And then there's cash prizes. So they did win some different cash prizes based on first, second, and third, and either way, I got a chance to probably go around and play some other stuff while they were there too, on the show floor.
They did, and the first place winner this year got $5,000. And I can't remember what the second and third got, but it was also over $1,000 each.
Yeah.
So pretty nice.
The only other product that seems to be going down this path is our friends at Stern with their pinball tournament capabilities. It is a surprising element. Again, I'm not going to get beaten up by incredible technologies. They have a fantastic tournament capability based on their golf and now their new bowling system. But this is something that causes repeat visitation. This is a longevity platform. This is easy cheddar on the table. And I cannot understand why not more of our amusement brethren embrace this level of player engagement. I would also just like to say, I got a chance to play a number of the Alan One machines finally, because usually I'm running around the show and I don't get a chance to play. Their missile command platform, excellent. That Caves system with its Pepper's Ghost 3D effect was super special to me. The breakout was incredible. These are legacy products repackaged in a way that should be compelling. And I get the feeling that our operations side may be missing this out because they're stuck in a mindset that doesn't include this level of, so we say, rebooted arcade playability.
Yeah, absolutely. I was also excited to see, Adam got a picture here of the Pong tables make a return. This was something that, I have right in my office sitting here right in front of me. Picked it up back, I think, in 2017 or 2018 off the show floor when they were originally sold by Unis. And now now Alan One has the license to distribute and sell these tables. So they were gone off the market for a few years, and excited to see them back. And because they're a great physical form of Pong gameplay, and actually, frankly, they're just a blast.
I was always surprised why they disappeared. I was never given a straight answer by Stephen about why they gave up. Unis gave up. It's nice to see Alan One doing this. I just hope that we also see some other early game products get that physicality representation, because it is very compelling.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, one of the things definitely got to talk about. We could not talk about this at leave without doing this. This is the DOF, the new DOF ride. It's basically a small mini flying theater that fits within a 20 by 30 footprint. So still fairly large for an FEC, but as far as a big immersive full attraction, it's pretty amazing. I'm going to mute it here because there's just a lot of sound. But you get a sense for, when you're in that seat, which is very comfortable, by the way. I was really remarkable. It was a remarkably comfortable seat. You really feel immersed. Now, one thing I'll say, and they even admitted, these are all micro LED panels. And
yeah, at first I thought it was projection mapping, and as I got close, I was like, those are LEDs. That's cool.
Yeah. So very, very good resolution as a result. Obviously shows very well in the high, the bright atmosphere that we are in. But there's some tweaking to those panels that need to happen when it's on site in order to get the perfect fidelity. But overall, for just a demo that they put together in 2.5 days before the show floor opened, it was pretty well done and exciting to see.
That's very impressive, because I was surprised by the graphic fidelity of the actual software itself. I mean, it was kind of their interpretation of a Star Wars-like thing, you could tell, but it was very cinematic, very well done.
So this is DOF Robotics is mostly known in our sector for their virtual reality attraction system, the 360.
The Hurricane 360. Yeah,
and sticking a VR headset in on your bonds allows you to have that level of ride immersion, but they have now embraced the latest range of LED panels. They put them in a dome, and we are at the transition point, because if you're not worrying about a laser projector, if you're not worrying about throw and lighting scales, you now have a package at, sitting down everyone, 350,000 buckaroonies, and you can have a 4-player theme park quality attraction that could be deployed into any kind of location-based entertainment facility that has the ceiling clearance and the power capabilities. This 4-player system rides off of, and they call it themselves, a compact flying theater. Flying theater experiences are very popular in the theme park attraction market, and they offer a level of engagement. The thing I love about this system is that screen that we're looking at actually wheels in. So as soon as the experience starts, the seat lifts off, and then the dome pulls in. So you're sitting in the iBox, the best location to watch that graphics. And the latest slimline LED screen panels have proven themselves. This is the culmination of the transition point that we've talked about in a number of sound-offs, where the projection market will have to worry because they can be superseded now by LED systems. What does this have to apply to the amusement industry? Well, number one, it's a system that can be deployed in a location-based entertainment system as an alternative to laser tag or to karting or something like that. This allows DOF to be in the FEC sector with a comparable price point system that will be very compelling. I have a number of clients that work in 4D film ride systems that look at this and say, wow, this is now an opportunity for our film content to be made available to this type of market. But there's also one important thing with DOF at the moment. DOF is moving into their own location-based entertainment facility operation. And it is clear that the company is thinking not just locally, but globally regarding the placement of their products into new markets and offering new business opportunities.
Absolutely.
And I think that would also include like smaller theme parks who can't afford the giant flying theaters, because I don't know how many seats those have. Isn't it something like 24 or even higher?
Well, they can have, I mean, and even DOF has the larger flying theaters as well, right? So they have them up to, you can have them in 24-seat racks, but then you can also stack them and have multiples, and you can have massive flying theaters. You take it soaring over California, and I believe that number is close to around 200 seats in that particular flying theater.
Right.
Big dome, big projection system, multi-stacked. Yeah, for some reason, tastes, the flying theater experience or the soaring theater experience really took off when Disney created Soaring Over America, where your legs are dangling, you're looking into a dome experience.
I think.
Yeah, well, yes, and you believe that you're there, and that has been duplicated across the market with lots of people creating soaring-styled flying theaters. Now, scaling that down to get that profitability for a location-based entertainment with a system like this, I'm not sure how many people who wandered the AEI show floor actually recognized what a revolution this particular system could be. I think that would be the big takeaway for me about AEI this year. There were a number of revolution moments, be it the card swipe technologies that were shown at the show. This as a mid-scale attraction. Our friends in the IP zone with John Wick's and with Pokémon, where our industry is actually changing quite drastically. It isn't just transmedia, it's changing in its profitability positioning.
Yeah, absolutely. One point of just quick clarification. The $350,000 for that DOF experience was the show special, and it is $420 for the as you know, on a retail basis. Now that's to probably be to be determined as your pricing sets in, etc. But that was the thing, and it uses the main DOF system uses their Supernova platform, which has been tried and true for. It's been out in the market for decades, so this is not some brand new thing. Obviously, the LED dome itself that rolls in but the Supernova product itself has been in the market and is in hundreds of installations across the world, and so it's definitely a platform that I think you could rely on over time. I also heard that the maintenance on it from Sam Rhodes, who's their head of North America for DOF, said that the maintenance on the Supernova product is about $2,000 a year. So when you're looking at a mid-size attraction, talking about putting in a go-kart system, for example, which takes up significantly more, the maintenance on go-karts versus on something like this, for example, are in two completely different worlds.
There's an interesting crossover period where a FEC operator starts thinking about putting a soaring attraction into their facilities next door to maybe just having a laser tag attraction. Yeah,
absolutely. All right, so this is I think covered quite a bit that we had, and we can always circle back if we want to a few other things at AEI, but we'd love to talk about some of the things in and around the convention center that we had a chance to go and check out. So Kevin, I know you had a chance to get around to Area 15 before you had to take off a little bit early on Thursday. So maybe you could talk a little bit about some of your experience that you had, and then I'll tag on to that as well.
So one of the important things about being in Vegas is keeping up with all of the competitive socializing investment that is now steering the direction of the sector. I created a long, boring list of all of the new competitive socializing venues that are opening out there, everything from F1 Arcade, all the way down to Flight Club. One of the biggest developments, of course, has been Area 15. The shopping mall of entertainment experiences, I think we coined in a Stinger report many moons ago. And it has gone through a reinvestment. We have now phase 2 of Area 15. So away from the main hub, there is a new hub, which is earmarked, or should we say underpinned by the carcass of a lovely Boeing 747 in the middle of it. Made me sad. This is still early in development. Only a third of the units are populated, and many of them are in development. But what we do have there is we have the ARC experience, which is a virtual reality and immersive futuristic space. We have escape games there. We have Universal Horror there, which again is an immersive experience with actors, with live actors, as well as digital experiences, all wrapped up in the pastiche or the branding that is Area 15. Jumping back to the original Area 15 component, we also have now an update to their brewery dining experience, as well as the inclusion of a John Wick's experience, which is again a live actor walk-through immersive experience with some skill. In fact, what we are seeing here with Area 15 within Vegas, away from the Strip, away from the casinos, is how competitive socializing works well. And even within the established Area 15 concept, they are constantly reiterating and updating. We walked around the classic retro arcade that they have within that space, and that has gone through an update and a metamorphosis. The 5-iron golf facility has been updated a little bit. They even have something now which is a kind of lab for immersive entertainment, where they put the birdie simulator, where they have a Meeleap interactive AR-based game system, where they have some virtual reality. Constantly iteration. We're led to believe that our friends at Area 15 aren't just looking at Las Vegas now. They had originally planned to expand to Orlando. That plan got shelved. Now, after their latest opening of the new edition, the new phase 2, we're led to believe that they have some bigger plans to announce later on in the year.
Yeah. I will say that while there are a couple of competitive socializing spaces, you mentioned Five Iron Golf, there's also the axe throwing inside of the main Area 15 bunkers, I guess we'll call them, the Zone 1 bunkers is what they call it. And but primarily, I really think it seems to be that the Area 15 is really turning into be this area for immersive experiences. And while you still have, game show, it's not game show battle room, but game show experience and some, escape games as well. So you could argue that those are both maybe a mixture of competitive socializing as well as immersive experiences, but really is becoming a hub for that. And, I was hoping I could get in to see the John Wick experience. I ran out of time to do both that and Interstellar Arc. I was able to do Odyssey Manor, which I was very excited about. And I did talk about on LBX show last week, in preview, and they took over the old Lost Spirits distillery, and which was one of my favorite experiences around. It's not officially a part of Area 15, but it's in that same area. And I was both really pleased with what they've done with Odyssey Manor and also a little bit disappointed in that they hadn't changed a whole lot of the theming and space for that was there for Lost Spirits. They really just took over the space, made some small modifications, updated the F&B. I would argue improved the actual actors and performances, but it was a fun experience, and so did enjoy that. I was super underwhelmed, and I know Adam has a different experience because he actually went through the John Wick experience, but I was substantially underwhelmed by at least the lobby and the main bar. I know this wasn't the speakeasy that I couldn't get into at the time, but this is the lobby and the main bar for the John Wick experience. Very underwhelming. Their bar was, frankly, this is something that could have been done for, I don't even know, like $10,000. I mean, like this was something that just felt like to me, the budget was not put forward to create a great bar experience, and certainly didn't lead me to believe that if I went into the rest of the John Wick experience, that it would actually be at the same, at a higher level of fidelity. I was actually worried that, okay, if I go in this thing, it's going to be the same level of fidelity and I'm going to be very disappointed. But Adam, I know you had a chance to do it, and I'm curious to, hear about your thoughts.
I guess it's a little bit amusing because you're asking a Mormon about bars and everything. Okay. But from what, I mean, really, this looks fancier than the speakeasy does. But of course, speakeasies aren't supposed to look fancy. No. But I'm pretty sure it was the exact same menu that they had available in both the speakeasy and whatnot. I mean, the speakeasy did have a little bit of that John Wick noir, future noir going on with it, a little more underground sort of stuff. But overall, the John Wick experience itself, like when you get started and you go into this very narrow elevator and then it starts going in through the experience, like that I thought was fantastic. I was very fortunate back in the day to go through the Star Trek experience, which used to exist at the Westgate Resort. It reminded me of that, except that it was a little bit more advanced. A lot more advanced, I should say, where it's this themed, almost like an escape room experience. There where you go through multiple rooms, you have to work together as a team. There's live actors who walk you through everything. And there was also an arcade experience in this John Wick one, where like the Star Trek one was an actual ride where you went into a shuttlecraft and it was a projector screen, very old school for late 90s, advanced for them. But in this John Wick one, the actors were fantastic. They were they were able to keep their composure and play along with it. Very good at improv and everything. The sets inside there were all very good. There were a couple of instances where you did have to do the escape room thing of working together to get to the next room. And then the rest of it was more of the kind of guided experience with what you were going through. And I'm trying not to spoil anything there, but just that part there, if you're not worrying about the bar, I think that is well worth it. Granted, I'm saying this as I didn't have to pay for any of it, so whatever. But that was nice. But overall, I was happy with the experience portion of it.
Well, of course, if you didn't have to pay for it, it's extra special.
Yeah.
I too have happy memories of the Star Trek experience at the Westgate all those years ago, and it had proven back then in the 90s that you could do a immersive entertainment experience with real actors as well as supported by digital experiences. And I think our industry's woken up to this again. Moving away from the live experience approach, we also have the competitive socializing experience. And one of the other venues that I managed to get to that I know Brandon also managed to attend was the F1 arcade experience.
Yeah, this is one that I definitely wanted to see. We've talked about this a number of times on both the LBX show as well as Sound Off. And I was very interested to see, like what were the aesthetics, how did it look, like how busy was it, etc. And now I'll show some pictures here. And to be fair to them, we got there. I went with Barry Zellickson from Fun Across America, as well as Jeremy Hoyam with the Urban Air. He's an Urban Air franchisee and the current FEC committee chair for IAPA. And, we had a chance to go down and check it out. And this was at noon, right after they had opened on Thursday afternoon. So to be fair to them, when I'm walking around, it was relatively empty, but it had just opened. So but as you can see here, I mean, really, frankly, just a beautiful facility. Very well appointed. Everything was very well done. All the finishes were on point. I really have no complaints whatsoever with regards to the overall look and feel of it. My biggest issue, and we've talked about this, and now I got a chance to actually see it in person versus just see on photos, is that there's just way too many Sims, period. It's way too big of a facility. There's a third floor and a first floor. And to be fair, the first floor is much smaller and is really just meant to be an entry point. And then you can take an elevator up to the third floor to be able to then this is where we were ultimately, is on the third floor. And this is located in the Caesars, way in the back of the Forum shops. So also not easy to find, not easy to navigate to as well. But, again, very well appointed, had one of their cocktails. It was very well done. The staff were friendly, and it looks phenomenal. But as you can see, empty. There was this little gift shop, which, Kevin corrected me and said there's a larger gift shop on the bottom floor that I missed. But this was all you could buy on the top floor, and just a couple of hats. So I thought was a miss. Here was an example of two couples that were playing. They purchased a 30-minute it was roughly, actually, they purchased a 3-race package, and apparently each race takes about 10 minutes, so this was a 30-minute experience roughly. And for a 3-race package, it's basically $30, roughly $30 per person. So it's, call it $1 a minute basically that you're spending to play. They came and they went. They didn't get any food. They didn't get any drinks. They left after the 30 minutes after they did their first 3 races. And one of the things I called out, I was watching them race, and the guy on the left here, clearly the one who wanted to come here, he finished first. And the other 3 out of 10, there were then 6 other basically computer driven NPCs. And then the other 3, they all were DFL. So 7, they're all 8, 9, and 10. So this is one of my issues as well with something like an F1 that requires actually quite a bit of practice, and it's not an easy thing to pick up right out of the gate. And you have one person there who's enjoying it, having the time of his life, and the other 3 are struggling. They're spinning out. They're and they were laughing a little bit, whatever. But I can guarantee you, if they had a more accessible experience, they would have stayed longer, maybe bought some drinks, loosened up a little bit, and then hopped back on and played. And so this is, I think, a major issue.
It's what we stated at the launch of
Yes.
F1 Arcade in London. It's what we stated at the second launch, the third, fourth launch, that they are forgetting what they are, which is an entertainment facility
Yes.
based upon the F1 franchise. I have done detailed evaluation of the play model that they are using for F1 Arcade, and you only get 3 game styles. You get the plasticine, easy peasy Mario quality. You then get a little bit more simulation. Then you get the super pro version. All of these versions still don't appeal to a wider audience. If you go to Flight Club down the road, a darts experience, even if you suck at darts, you can still get something out of the darts experience. As long as that your steels touch the board, you will still be brought into the game. There won't be that expert level. This is the most dangerous thing about competitive socializing, where you have one person who's fantastic at it and the rest of the players are so-so, and they get bored very quickly.
Yep.
You're right. The F1 facility had opened early. I went at 3 o'clock on a Sunday.
Wednesday. Oh, Sunday. Oh, you went during the weekend. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Weekend. You did a weekday. It is early. I didn't see any marketing or promotion in the Vegas rundown promoting the F1 Arcade. Maybe they are focusing mainly on promoting themselves during race season. And we have to also remember this isn't the only F1 experience in Vegas. They also have a Grand Prix venue. My argument here is we need to keep a very close eye on F1 Arcade to see if they work out what that word arcade in their name actually means.
Absolutely. All right. Well, was there anything we got, last maybe 2 minutes each, if there's anything else we wanted to cover? But otherwise, I think we can call it a wrap on this year's AEI. Anybody else got anything last to say?
Adam?
I guess I got a photo there really quick of Exa Arcadia. They had actually been missing from Amusement Expo last year, but we're back. And they are starting to lean a lot more into the licensed IP. They have some huge announcements with some Japanese IP that are going to be coming with up with the event known as Evo Japan 2026, which is more of a fighting game tournament thing, but it's going to make some big headlines. But at this show, they had Avatar Legends, the fighting game, which is based on the Avatar anime, as well as G.I. Joe, which, funny enough, I asked Jet Games USA about this because at IAPA, everybody was talking about that G.I. Joe game with that giant artillery cannon on it, and it was missing from Amusement Expo, and it sounds like it's been delayed. It's still in development, but they're still working on it, and I guess they felt it wasn't time to bring it to this show. But this G.I. Joe game, it's more of a 4-player beat-em-up type game, and made as a strong fan service to people who were really into G.I. Joe back in the day. And so they're, with them and their systems, which, as you can tell, those cabinets are Japanese arcade cabinet styles. They're very modular as well. You can swap out the control panels. You can even change the orientation of the monitor. They've seen very high demand for those, to the point where they've actually stopped making those older wooden ones that they used to show off at these shows, because there's just not any brand new Japanese arcade cabinets available for collectors and the like. But there's more arcades that are also getting into wanting to offer that sort of Japanese arcade experience, so you don't have to fly to Tokyo to get it. And Exa is one of the few companies that's allowing you to do that with brand new content.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm glad you called that out. That is, this is one area I didn't get a chance to really spend a lot of time to play these games.
Well, yeah. It was the appearance of their G.I. Joe that triggered my memory that we were missing one G.I. Joe experience off the show floor. We were missing a couple of experiences off the show floor because of shipping problems. Some companies weren't able to bring products. Some executives weren't able to come. Just touching upon VR and XR in general, we still had VR products on the show floor. There was still a level of engagement and interest in that technology. We also had mixed reality on the show floor. Our friends at Versus had a very popular show, and our friends at Dive Labs, they also came to the show with a brand new Arena VR experience that was of interest. For me, the high altitude observation of AEI this year is that it was still showing its value and its importance into the market. What I'm more interested about is how much the market is changing. And there is a strong possibility that the distributors that we have in this industry and the manufacturers in this industry are beginning to change their business model quite considerably due to three areas that are pressuring them. They're being pressured by the cost of living and the financial situation, which has been compounded by the oil price rise. They are changing because of the new competition. We have seen a lot of venues open, and some of them haven't opened as traditional amusement sites. But finally, we're seeing the change of age. We have been watching the amusement industry continue along a path, a traditional path, unchanged. Those days are over. We're seeing a migration of some of the older members of our industry, executives retiring and moving on, while the new people coming into the industry are not following the same hymn sheet, the same business plan, and are looking at the opportunities. And that was best illustrated for me by our gender moments, or sorry, our gender moments on the show floor. We saw the transition of player one distribution, who's been acquired by Gender, physically changing their brand during the show to now being Kittleton. This is the beginning of something that I think many of the traditionalists in the amusement industry aren't ready for, but it is fascinating for some of us secret baseball watchers, shall we say.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought those pictures when you sent them of the player one banner, and then in the same exact
we'll share
spot,
them on sound off. We'll share them.
Absolutely. I thought that was fascinating. So, all right. Well, guys, this has been an excellent review of Amusement Expo International 2026, and we'll see you all on the next guest gab.
Have a good one.
Intercard is the only cashless system designed, developed, and manufactured all under one roof. They introduced cashless technology to the amusement industry and have been leading the way for over 30 years. Cashless systems from Intercard increase customer spending, guest satisfaction, and boost revenues by up to 30%. Intercard is so proud to be serving the amusement industry, and if you aren't already part of their global family of customers, they hope you will become one soon. All right. Well, that was a great guest gab and review with Adam and Kevin. So glad that they were able to join us here. And it was nice to be able to just see them walking around, even though we didn't get to spend maybe a whole lot of time together as much as we would have preferred. But you know what? We've got, we are not doing a sound off this week. So we're going to skip this week because of Amusement Expo. We didn't, Kevin and I did not record one, but we will be back with sound off number 115 with Kevin Williams on Tuesday, March 31st. And otherwise, that is a wrap for this week's LBX show. This is Brandon Wiley signing off. Stay tuned and keep kicking ass.